I think that this is the trick. What we're not looking for here is perfection. We're never going to, nothing in this world is perfect, right? There's no perfect person, no perfect religion, no perfect business. There's no perfect anything. And we're not going to be perfect. And perfect is an outward. How do I look to everybody else anyway? Is my hair perfect? You know, it's a spirit of excellence. Hi, I'm Sherry Sterling Fernandez, and I'm a speaker, a mentor, and I'm now an author. And I'm here to speak with Chase on Ever Forward Radio about the principles of life mastery.
Sherry, welcome to Ever Forward Radio. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me.
You were telling me that this is your first time ever in real life podcasting.
Yes, I've done about 100 podcasts, but no one ever invited me in person before. Well, there were some local ones. Yeah, there was a couple local ones that I did, just in Boise. But as far as anything with any large audience, this is the first time I've gone out of my city to go. But
welcome.
I travel though, so I was like, oh yeah. Party trip, vacation.
LA is a good spot for that, I guess.
LA is a good place to do
It sounds like you're enjoying the trip as well. Got some good family time.
Yeah, and we walked for a little bit this morning. The sun was shining. I was like, oh, sun. I haven't seen the sun for a while.
Yeah, for a little bit. Neither have I. Not in LA. It's been monsoon season, apparently.
And Boise, it's been snow season. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll trade you, especially this time of year.
Oh, would you? I'll trade you. You can have the snow.
Well, you're here to talk about, I think, some of the most important concepts when it comes to ourself. And that is work on the self, understanding of the self, application of these new forms of awareness, and just building and creating tools in our toolbox to help our individual self, but then to create a better self, I think, to go out into the world with. And you call this self-mastery. You've literally written the book on it, Personal Progression Toward an Infinite Potential.
Yes.
But before we kind of get into some of these actual tactics, I'm curious about the origin story with you, not your whole life story, but someone who has written a book like this and someone like myself who has done, I think, a lot of these similar disciplines and committed to life mastery. There's a moment or a couple moments where everything else changed, just this new concept of awareness or even the idea of the self, that you could change the self and improve the self. What was that moment for you or some of those moments?
It was kind of a two-part thing. When I was a little girl, this would be 1960, early 60s, my parents got divorced, and I was kind of left adrift. And so I'm like 9 years old. And I wandered, and somewhere in my wandering, I just decided, I guess. I just knew that I was somebody special. I was going to do some great special things. No idea what those were going to be, but I just knew I was destined for some really great things. And that feeling stayed with me to some level through my teen years, and then through the party years I just kind of got carried away in the party years.
Good for
Sex,
you.
drugs, and rock and roll, as they say, just about destroyed myself. I don't know. But then I had a child and then got married. And my husband, same thing. We just partied away all those years when you were in the military. We were.
Well, I was doing my fair share of partying in the military sometimes. I don't want to paint that wrong picture.
It wasn't a full-time gig though for you.
No, it was not.
Pretty much full-time for us. But when we got married and we hadn't been married very long, and we were not even hardly able to feed ourselves. It was pretty pathetic. But I thought, all those feelings came back to me. I wanted things, and I wanted to have. I had 2 children at that point. So I had another one right after we got married. And I thought, I just believe I can have a really rockin' body and still have lots of kids. And I wanted to not the money. It wasn't like I wanted money. But I wanted the freedom to do. I wouldn't have to be on a budget and account for every cent, which we were having to do. I mean, we just didn't have any money and had no freedom financially. I wanted that kind of freedom. I'd missed my education, but I'd been a championship debater in high school. So I got a pretty good brain, but it was whatever cells I didn't kill on my party days. I wanted to get that education back. So I just wanted everything that life had to offer. And I just kept saying to myself and believed you can have everything. You just have to pay the price. You have to know how to go about doing it. Use the right. If I can find the right recipe, I could have everything. And I found the right recipe, and I have had more than I ever even dreamed of. That recipe brought me even more than I could have dreamed of.
You said a couple of unique things there. I'm curious, do you find them to mean the same thing, or did you change intentionally? I can have all the things I want in life. I just need to, you said, suffer the pain or figure out the recipe.
Not suffer. I don't think it's a painful journey.
Okay.
It's a really joyous journey. Not
Excuse me, I
pain.
think you said pay the
If
price.
I was willing to pay the price.
Excuse me, yeah.
And that's the discipline. The price is you have to get up earlier and do a few things. It's a joyful price to pay, but it does require, in the long run, it's a joyful price. And even in the short term, I love to work out, but sometimes you put your shoes on, you put your socks on, you put your gym clothes on, you're like, I don't want to go today. But you go anyway because you want the benefit of the price that you're paying. So there's a price to pay. I think it's a joyous price. I love my life. I love my way of life. I never felt like, oh, I'm having to torture myself so I can get the things that I want. I never felt like that. It was joyful. It's just that get yourself out the door to do that run or to go to do that workout or pick up that book, to get out of bed. There's a price to be paid, and it's a price of discipline. If I was willing to do that and find out just what kind of disciplines I needed, I believed I could have all of that, and I do, and more.
Clearly, yeah. When it comes to this initial mindset shift of the realization that you can have everything you want in your life, and you began the path towards it, we can have anything we want in life. We just have to begin the path towards it. The mindset shift of, is it accepting that this is just going to be difficult and this is just what the price I have to pay in order to get the things that I want, the life that I want, the quality, the meaning, the purpose, all the things, or is that still missing the boat a little bit? If we're stuck in this, like, that's still pain and suffering and enduring, right? Or do we need to get to, is it the next level really, the mindset shift of this isn't pain, this isn't the price, this is what is like even necessary, trying to like almost even delusional optimism.
There's moments that might be a little bit like that, but no, I think it's like I've accomplished this thing. What else can I do? This is exciting. When I had my fitness business, I would have clients that would, as soon as they got there, we were really good, really effective in our ability to change lives. And I was very hands-on, and we had 3 locations, lots of people. So we had a lot of people through our doors and a lot of people making a difference with them. But I saw over and over again, people would be in my office again, like, I got this now. They weren't arrived.
Right.
They just knew now they had control. They had mastery. They had their workout. They had the way they ate. They had a lifestyle. What else can I do? And they were looking to get out of debt or improve their relationships. Or we started having classes for those things because people were hungry for what else can I do? And I think it's like that. It was like, it's fun. But some days you don't want to do it. Some days you've got a cold and it's a good excuse to stay in bed. But if you want to be in that rare air crowd, you get out of bed and do the workout anyway, whether you got a cold or not, or whether you were up too late with the kids last night or whatever it is. So there's moments that it's kind of painful, but overall it's just joyous. I mean, it's because I'm absolutely convinced, I know this to be a truth, that we are happy when we're moving forward. That's it. We're happy when we're moving forward. And when we take the easy route, stay in bed when we got the cold, or stay in bed because we were up late with the kids, or whatever the easy route is, or we've had a long day, I'll start again tomorrow. When we do that, it's not on the road to happiness. Right? It's when we make ourselves do it anyway. We're like, whoa, look at me grow, and it's an exciting and fun journey. And it's happy. It's just happy.
I agree with you.
But I hear a but.
But I'm curious to play devil's advocate a little bit, but also just to like remind us that we're human. What are your thoughts around grace when it comes to discipline? No doubt there are times like, okay, I'm not feeling it. I don't want to make this call. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do this thing, even though I know it has served me or it is on the path to serving me. But what about just maybe that real honest gut check of like, this isn't just me being lazy. This isn't an excuse. Like I actually need to say no to this thing that I'm working on being so disciplined about. This concept of maybe giving ourselves grace in a scenario like that. Grace would be, I guess, one way to put it. I'm kind of a take no prisoners. Oh, okay, attitude. All right, I like it. Okay.
But there are moments, right? I think that this is the trick. What we're not looking for here is perfection. We're never going to. Nothing in this world is perfect, right? There's no perfect person, no perfect religion, no perfect business. There's no perfect anything, and we're not going to be perfect. And perfect is an outward. How do I look to everybody else anyway? Is my hair perfect? It's a spirit of excellence. Am I on the road to excellence? And if there's there's moments, there's times when you have to maybe regroup. Like if I'm on vacation, I have my vacation. Like if I expect myself to read this much if I'm home. If I'm on vacation, pick up the book. I still have the habit, but I might, I have my vacation schedule. Like okay, if I do I'm going to still work out.
Yeah.
I'm still going to get 14,000 steps every day, but maybe my workouts going to look a little bit different. And that's planned in advance. I know that there's some parameters when I'll eat. I don't eat sugar, but if there's an event and it's a big event, somebody's done a nice thing, and it's going to be awkward, I'm going to eat the dessert, right? So I already have some built-in parameters for when it's okay to maybe shift up what I'm doing a little bit.
You remind me of this concept. Are you familiar with Jocko Willink?
Oh, yeah. Heard him speak twice and read his book. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've seen him live several times, met him several times, read all the books.
He's much better in person than the book.
I agree. I mean, the books aren't bad by any means. Not bad. But in person, you're just like, wow.
Yeah, he's great. I listened to him at the Entrepreneur Leadership.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, then I'm sure you're familiar with his concept of discipline equals freedom.
It does.
And what I heard in your description of what you're doing and the discipline that you have at home, on vacation, it reminded me of this concept of that is freedom. You are outside looking in. Some people might say, wow, she can't even take a day off of working out, or she can't vacation and like still stick to her routine. And some like, you still have to do this. I think outside looking at a lot of people who don't have discipline, that's all they see. But inside looking out, when we have discipline, are we not our freest? Because I'm living the life that I want. I'm doing these things while still controlling some controllables that I know are going to keep me on my path. I'm having fun. I'm vacationing, but I'm still getting a workout in. But yeah, I'm going to eat the damn cake too. Yeah.
Well, it feels good. I don't feel better because I take a day off. I'm like, oh, I've been hard on myself. I think I'll take a day off. I don't at the end of the day think, oh, I'm so much happier because I took that day off. I don't ever think that. I mean, I'm saying it's never happened to me because I've done that, right? But I never at the end of the day, have you ever at the end of the day said, I sure wish I wouldn't have worked out today? I mean, nobody says that, right? I sure wish I wouldn't have read that book today.
Well, maybe sometimes if I get too carried away and I like injure myself, maybe. But then it's not like I wish I didn't work out. It's I wish I would have calmed down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wish I'd been smarter when I worked out. No, I don't want to sound too hardcore. I don't want anybody to feel like this self-discipline. I mean, it sounds like self-discipline sounds like so harsh. It is more freedom. Like you can sit on the couch and binge on Netflix and eat chips if that's what you want to do. But do you think that anybody feels more free? There is more freedom in self-mastery. It gives you all the freedom. For example, an obvious example is if I discipline myself in my finances, what's that going to do for my financial? I think it was, it could be Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar. I think it's Jim Rohn that said, one of them, said that live today so that you, like nobody else does, so that you can live tomorrow like nobody else does.
Oh, yeah.
Something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And if I had taken a lot of days off of any of those things, my relationship, work, or any of it, I wouldn't have what I have today. And I really love my life, and it's great. And I love the challenge every day.
But
but
again, it's just like, I mean, I agree with you. Absolutely. But another part of my role here is to put myself into the eyes and ears of maybe someone listening, watching, and just understanding, we are all on different paths to self-mastery, but just, behavior change and habits and our wellness, inside and out. We get that clarity typically only on the other side of it, right?
Yes.
We only get this clarity.
Not until you pay the price.
But when we're in it, it's just, we can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
At least until you don't start seeing some improvements. When you start seeing some improvements, it's very, very motivating. And I should be clear. When you set up everybody says, I'm not saying you should do these certain things every day. You choose. My clients choose. What daily habits would you like to have? And they pick them. And you don't want to start. I have quite a few. But I've been doing it since I was 25. I'm 86 years old. I'm 87 years old.
You're 87. Wow.
No, I'm not 87.
I was going to say 67. What? I was like, wow.
Cut that out. I'm 67. I'm 67 years old. And so I've been doing this for, since my mid-20s.
Okay.
Or late 20s.
I don't math good.
You do the math, whatever the math is there. 40 years.
The math,
No, for about 40 years.
I'm a podcaster, not a mathematician.
So I track about 12 or 13 daily habits. But I've been doing it for decades and decades. My clients, I encourage them to do 2 or 3, start with 2 or 3. And some of the ones I track now, I've been tracking since then. I just like to see that nice row of check marks every day. I like that continuous run. And then others that I still struggle getting them done. It's a process, but you set out at the beginning and you determine the boundaries. Okay, this is what I'm going to eat, and day to day, and this is what this will be the exceptions. Like I don't eat sugar as a rule. and I don't eat desserts really ever. But I do eat dark chocolate, 85% or higher. I will eat whipped cream because I know where it came from. I know where the chocolate came from. It's processed foods I'm really trying to get rid of, right? So there's some things that I do that are already pre-prescribed. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I don't work out on Sunday. I still go for a walk. I still get 14,000 steps on Sunday, but I'm not going to go to the gym because your body does need a day off.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's my day off is Sunday, and so I don't go to the gym. So those are all pre-prescribed things. It used to be that I had a 5-day workout 5 days a week. So I had these 6 kids, and so I said, if I work out weekdays, Saturdays were a wild card. I'll try for Saturdays. If I don't make Saturdays, no problem.
So it's not part of the plan.
It's not part of the plan.
If it happens, great.
Yeah. So it's not like here's some things you should all out there be doing. You choose what a workout is. I've had periods of my life where a workout was if I could do X number of push-ups, X number of squats, X number of lunges, that's going to be my workout for right now because I've got all these things going on. Right
Now you're really sounding like Jocko.
Yeah.
Sometimes I hit that 1,000-meter row. That's it. I got to go. Sometimes it's a 2-hour gym session. Get after it.
Right now, 45 minutes. If it's not 45 minutes, it's not a workout,
yeah.
right? Because I started doing that. I know this is like more information than you need, but I started doing the 75 hard last June. I like it because I already was doing all the stuff. It just sort of
like packaged differently.
Yeah, it did. It kind of made me raise the bar just a bit.
Very cool.
Right. So I've started doing that. I really like it. It's just great. It's just perfect for me.
Yeah.
Because I already had the habits. I just needed to maybe have them a little more stricter outline. Here's a strict outline. I mean, I can make my own outline.
75 hard is pretty strict, that's for sure.
That's pretty strict. Well, I was doing it. The only difference would have been I might have always had the 14,000 steps. I've been doing that for forever. So now it's 2 workouts and make sure I get 14. So I have to get a walk. I had to get a walk in anyway to get the steps in. And I still like to go to the gym. So it was just
one thing also
brushed
kind of
it up
feeds
a little
another.
bit. Yeah, it just tightened it up a little bit. That's all. It wasn't like a big change in my life. But so I like the 45-minute workout guideline. Right now, that works for me. It didn't always. There were times when that wasn't always going to work.
Setting our own parameters. Mentioned that a couple of times. I think that's also some other secret sauce components, ingredients to the recipe here of self-mastery. I think back to a lot of times when I first had this level of awareness of I can change my life. I want to change my life. Certain things in my life I'm not happy with, nor should I should not accept this for myself. You know, when I started reading all the self-help books, listened to all the podcasts, became more curious, journaled, all the things I'm sure you're familiar with, and a lot of people do. And I think they're great starting points. But where I maybe went wrong, and I think a lot of us maybe go wrong with this to a certain degree, is we try to take someone else's parameters for success and their forms of discipline, their habits, their rules, their everything, and because we see them in a light of, I want to be you. I want to be like you, or some form of what you're doing and how you're doing it resonates with what I want for my life also to look like. But over time, I shed a lot of those things that didn't serve me, or I was just forcing like a square peg into a round hole kind of thing. And then now, like a decade later, I have Chase's habits, Chase's disciplines. I have my own parameters. Would you agree that's also kind of the path you went down? And would you kind of maybe recommend that for someone to not stay so married to other people's parameters for discipline and their rules and their this and habits and everything, but just really build your own? Because again, that is freedom from your own discipline.
Yeah, I didn't do that actually, but I knew what I wanted, and I tried to pick paths that would get me to there. That's what I picked. So I didn't fall into that trap very much. I think that being that wild child as a little girl and being so independent just served me well. I just
you didn't want to listen to anybody, even if it was Zig Ziglar.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't that many people in my world, either to look at. This is the mid 70s or later 70s, right? Who was I going to look to?
Limited
There was
resources,
a few books. It wasn't the internet. But the trick is you decide what you want, and then you look at what can I do for the next 90 days to get me towards. I've got this big, hairy, audacious goal, and I used Jim Collins' words for that. I know that ultimately I want to be this physical, muscular, agile person. I'm not going to get there in 90 days, but what can I do for the next 90 days? That dream doesn't even have to be definable. It's just this big, or financially. I want this kind of financial freedom. I want to look, I want to feel like a certain way. You couldn't even put it on paper. You can't really adequately describe it. Okay, Okay, I know what when I see it. I know what I'm looking for. And then what can I do for the next 90 days? And then maybe the next year or 5 years or whatever, if I have to have some intermediate goals. Usually you pick 90 days. If I know that if I eat this way and I work out this way for not every day for 90 days.
I'm going to see some change.
I'm going to see some results.
Change,
at the end of 90 days, I might brush it up, change it up, make it maybe a little harder. And then I'm going to go again. I'm just going to keep doing that until I reach this big goal, right? But I choose. So I've had clients that started with brushing their teeth every day, You pick
that's a pretty good habit to pick.
That's a pretty good habit. If you need that, if you haven't doing that, then you should probably develop that one. But the clients, I will say though, almost everybody picks from the same pool of about 6 or 8 habits.
What are they?
As a rule, they're going to be working out, exercise of some sort.
The physical self, maybe water or food. They might have one in that one. Meditation, prayer. You'd be surprised. I don't think I've ever had anybody from any religious, background not choose prayer, which I think is super interesting. Maybe it's who I attract. I don't know. I do. I pray every day. Reading in their field, maybe devotional reading. I said water. That's a big one for a lot of people. Like, I got to get so much water. Then I usually talk them down. Like, you don't need that much water. Maybe just a little less than that. I've been working on that one with my wife for years. Yeah. What she drinks in a week, I have probably by noon.
Oh, is that right?
And that's the God's honest truth.
How much water do you drink in a day?
At least a gallon.
Yeah, so I talk you out of that.
Oh, really? So, but I'm always. Yeah. I feel like my body needs it. Like, I'll share with you. She's Middle Eastern. Her entire family, like, they hardly ever drink water. I think we got some genetics, some genetic differences.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, too, you train your body to need it too. Like,
right. Yeah, I'm very active. I'm also just naturally very thirsty.
If you do it for a long time, you're going to want it.
Yeah, and I talk for a living, so I'm just like blowing hot air and water out.
Yeah, my husband can sweat changing a light bulb, so he drinks quite a bit more water.
I wake up and I'm sweating. Yeah. Maybe that's another medical problem I need to address. I don't know, but I definitely stay thirsty.
High people perspire a lot. They do need more water, but so anyway, we'll have that conversation another day.
Yeah, maybe
we'll talk more about water.
I got to get a sweat doctor in here one time. You bring up one of the key areas in your book that I definitely wanted to get to, and that's the spiritual self-mastery. You mentioned, when it comes to, I want to change my life, I want something more from my life, or we naturally gravitate towards, I think, a lot of these similar things that we think it takes to be better, whether that's personally, professionally, especially when it comes to our body. And it's prayer, or the spiritual self. And I can tell you, long story short, the last 2 years of my life personally, and definitely the last 2 years of content that I've put out and podcasts that I've had and people I've had on the show, have really dived deeper into the spiritual self, and even kind of sublayer of that being higher levels of mental and emotional health, higher levels of mental and emotional healing, and just honoring and respecting those forms of my body and my well-being. And so much of the growth and the healing that I've had over the last 2 years, I would put into the bucket of mental, emotional health. But really, if I get very honest, I would describe that as my spiritual health. I have respected and I've honored and I've made more consistent, and I've tapped into in a lot of unique ways through what I would still describe as forms of prayer sometimes, but also just meditations, but also just taking time to get very still and look inward and talk to myself, but really talk to a higher being, higher power, God. And it has radically improved my life. So that's my personal experience. But why do you think so many people feel called to focus on or get back to their spiritual health in terms of self-mastery?
Yeah, I think well, it's like any pendulum. I think the pendulum swung too far, maybe the other direction, and we've become...
And I come from the Bible Belt, too. I was raised Southern Baptist, so, that pendulum definitely has been swinging.
Swinging around, right. Let me go back up on that just a little bit. Spirituality was a way of life for a couple of hundred years ago, the 1800s, 1700s, not with everybody. And there's been a lot of ridicule towards religion, which I think is unfair. I think most religions are trying very hard to do the best they can to help imperfect people live just a little bit better. We point at them and say they're not perfect, they can't be God's church or whatever. Well, he's got to work with people.
Yeah, well, in every religion, what do we still have? Imperfect people.
Yeah, all we have is, it's like one wise man said, he said, all that God has to work with is imperfect people, and it must be frustrating for him. That's all he's got to work with, So it may be the pendulum swing, but I think a rise in spirituality and new approaches. I'm hoping that most people are not, it's sincere spirituality and not a pseudo finding forms of spirituality that is just a replacement for true spirituality.
This term I heard recently, I think, describes that spiritual bypass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, which has really always been a thing in a way. It just looked like church before, now it looks like, I don't want to make fun of anybody's thing, so I won't make it specific, but it looks like a lot of pseudo religion-ish kind of things that are not really serving, and you can usually tell by the results. By the fruits you shall know them by the results in people's life, right? If they're not coming across as spiritual.
I agree. I think it's one of the most palpable things you can tell of a person if it's like, if the spiritual self is shining through or the ego is just shining through more, representing as this enlightened self, you know? Or
this just sounds cool. It could be, I think I talk about this in my book, but when in the 70s, there was the gurus, right? You know, and every time you turn, there's some 18, 19-year-old guru with a flowing robes and incense and weird talk, and they were not doing it. You know, they were not going anywhere. But
we still have those. Now they're just on TikTok.
Yeah. Those are those ones with the short skirts and the big lips. I don't know. Anyway, so but back to the spirituality thing, you know, what you said, I think that's really and there's more understanding of this than ever before, I think, because it may just be the books I'm reading, but I'm just seeing more and more of this kind of conversation. Carolyn Leaf says it so perfectly and clearly. She said, "You're not your brain. We have a self that is not our brain and not our body. It is still part of us. I mean, those things are still part of us, but it's the essence of us that needs to be acknowledged and fed. And that's where a lot of the stuff that gets buried, that gets in our way, needs to be brought to our attention to those deeper levels of consciousness or non-conscious to consciousness, to subconsciousness, to consciousness, to be dealt with. So there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. Mental health is really more about that than, I'll get myself in trouble if I go too far down that road, but still.
You're in a safe space here.
Yeah, we're in a safe space. Yeah, you and your 3 million listeners. Anyway, so understanding that we are an endless, eternal entity that now occupies this brain and this body, which is part of us, an important part of us. It's certainly really important to us. But I think there's more and more people trying to find that part. Meditation, this is a very busy world. The Bible, the Psalm says, "Be still and know that I'm God." And I think, be still and know that you're a spiritual being. Be still and know God. Be still and know anything. We don't have much stillness, and so I'm a real big fan of meditation. And by meditation, I don't mean like a nice app that says pretty things to you, which is fine too.
Yeah.
But that's not going to. It's calming, but it's not real meditation. Meditation, if you don't mind me going off on a tangent here, should be helping us be more aware of our thoughts and to do one thing at a time. It's hard. It's hard work.
To be here now.
To be here in the present right now. I really love Eckhart Tolle's book about the power of now.
Yeah.
Super good. But there's a lot of books like that right now. So to learn how to be in the present, that means you're doing one thing at a time. I'm just here in this moment and being aware of what you're thinking about. You can't change anything about yourself if you don't know how you're thinking. You don't recognize your thoughts. We just do things on autopilot.
Ain't that the truth?
And if we don't tap into that bit of knowledge. So super important. But I'd say about spirituality, just start where you're at.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to, if you believe there's a God, wonderful. Focus on that and, maybe pray and ask him. I don't know. If you don't believe in that, we'll start somewhere. Start with meditation. Start with a walk in the woods. Forest bathing. They used to call it going for a hike.
Yeah.
Now it's forest bathing.
I forget that it's a Japanese term.
Yeah, it's a Japanese term. Yeah, this has become quite popular.
Yeah.
But whatever you want to call it. I mean,
nature
a lot
walking.
of things can be spiritual and meditative. Connecting with nature is a super good place to start. But I always wonder about people who wonder if there's a God. I think, what have you thought to ask him? I mean, that's a good place to start,
That's a powerful question.
So, but start somewhere. Just finding the awe in nature and in human beings, just to look around at people and what they do.
In ourselves.
In ourselves.
Yeah.
What we've accomplished.
We don't give ourselves credit a lot.
I said this in the book. It sounds like so corny, but and I get to a big city like LA, like I did today, and I'm like, where does all the sewage go? This is amazing. I mean, it's really quite a feat.
The infrastructure is incredible.
The infrastructure, the roads and stuff. Look what we've done. All these people living in the small space, and we have sanitary conditions. It's an amazing thing.
Thank God for those Romans really setting up these aqueducts back in the day. Like, we'd be screwed without it.
Yeah, we'd be without that. So humans are amazing. So starting with some of that awe to just stop, it requires some quiet, reflective time. And anybody who's not working somewhere in their spiritual self is missing a lot of of what life's about. It's been
Could
said
not
we're a
agree more.
spiritual. What does it say? There's a saying about we're not a physical being having spiritual experiences. We're a spiritual being having physical experiences, and I think that might have been C.S. Lewis. Don't quote me on that for sure.
He's got some good ones.
He's
That's
got.
for
If
damn
it's not
sure.
him, he should have said it.
Yeah, maybe
he
him
says
or
good
Mark,
stuff
even
like
Mark
that.
Twain. Or,
Yeah, Mark Twain isn't too bad.
Some of the
there.
best ones
Yeah,
out there.
I think that was C.S. Lewis, but somebody said that was smarter than me.
Yeah. And you mentioned, time in this. When we think prayer, when we think meditation especially, a lot of us go to, like with a lot of things, maybe in disciplines we're trying to introduce into our lives, usually time is the first barrier to entry. I don't have enough time to meditate. What's the rule? If you don't have 30 seconds to meditate, then you should meditate for 30 minutes.
Right.
But one way that, just a personal experience here, in an odd way, how I feel I've kind of increased my spiritual well-being. And by that, I mean just little micro experiences of tapping into just some other kind of higher connection, higher self, or even just a deeper connection with myself that makes me feel more elevated. We all have the same amount of time. And this act of presence has radically helped move the needle in my life in that area. When I'm cooking food, I catch myself all the time. Like if I'm on my phone or if I'm doing something else, Chase, cook the food. Whatever the task is before me, Chase, eat your food. I used to eat at a counter and scroll or be on my laptop or all these things or watch TV. Just do the thing before me. And that immediately shifts me away from distraction mode, which carries over into my work. I feel like I can just channel consciousness and focus and attention so much more by reminding myself to come back to task. But in that, I'm getting time back because in those processes before, my time, my focus, my awareness was going everywhere. Now I bring all that back and channel it just into this one thing, one experience. There's this unique form that I get, at least, this unique experience of, one, I'm getting my power back. Two, I just feel like I am like a higher self because I have conquered the distractions of the world and I am so aware of what I'm doing in even just these micro practices throughout the day that serve just this unique higher version of myself that I don't know if I even can properly explain, but it's just, again, it locks me in. I'm here now. I'm emailing. I'm reading. I'm writing. I'm cooking. I'm out to eat. I'm not in the 30 seconds of awkward silence with somebody just picking up my phone out of habit. Being here now deepens and broadens this connection I have with self, with the other person, but in an odd way, I feel like a higher self or tapping into that.
Yeah. Two things I'd say about that. One reason you feel that way is because happiness is only in the moment. You can only be in the present, the moment, right? There's not in the future. It's not in the past. It's only just like doing this one thing. I was reminded of, in The Miracle of Mindfulness, that Vietnamese monk whose name I can never say right. He said,
I'm not familiar.
when you're washing the dishes, wash the dishes.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So what you're talking about, cooking the dinner. But
Or what is it? Be where your feet are.
Be where your feet are is a really good one too. So be just in the moment because that's all you've really got.
Right.
And anxiety, they'll think anxiety's in the future and depression's in the past, thinking about the past. But happiness is there's not unhappiness in the moment, right? There's just the moment. So there's that part of it. The other thing you said about time is this is a really important. First of all, we could argue the whole whether even time really exists, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But this is what I learned. So I had 6 children. That means I had ball games and dance lessons and laundry and foods and shopping and meals and all the things. I mean, and then we had our own business, so that was quite demanding. Ken did pretty much all of that. But we were just hopping. 6 kids is a lot of kids. If you've got 1 or 2, And we loved that. It was very, very, very busy. What I learned is, and this is a universal truth, and I believe this will be true for anybody, you can prove it. If I would take care of my own personal development, that meant something spiritual, something physical. If I did these things that I set out for myself, there were 5 in those days that I did every day. If I did those and did them first, my days went way better. If I didn't do them at all, I was disappointed at the end of the day. I wasn't happy, and I didn't get any more done. Weirdly enough, taking that. So I spend at that time I was putting about an hour, close to 2 hours in personal development time. I got more done on those days. I know it sounds counterintuitive, and I don't know why it is. All I know is that my days were more productive and better. I never got farther ahead by skipping me.
Wow.
You fill your own cup first. You take care of you first. I spoke to a group of women in construction, women leaders in construction or some kind of thing like that recently. And women tend to think that they're irreplaceable. Like they're just indispensable completely. They'd be like, oh, we can't take lunch away because they might need us at lunch. Any that work, you know. So anyway, I told them that. I said, you put you first. You go come first. You come first. You come first. And you could see the little light bulbs coming all around the room. They were like, oh, because you're so much more effective for everybody else if you put you first. That's why Jim Rohn said, you take care of you for me, I'll take care of me for you. You're just so much more effective. And I'm my own project. This is my number one project is Sherry. What I'm becoming, who I'm becoming, that's my number one project. So I come first in that sense, that my personal development comes first. I guarantee you, your listeners, if you'll do that, you'll find you're more productive. You read Tools of the Titans or Tribe of Mentors and all these success. They all have morning routines. Some of them are hours. I remember reading about one lady who meditates for 3 hours a morning.
The joke here in LA is like people have such high performing, high level morning routines. Oh, my morning routine takes me until 3 p.m.
Yeah, they're getting up at noon.
Yeah. I'm up at the crack of dawn getting my sunlight and grounding, but then it's just like, hours of other things. And
well, obviously, and if you're picking up your phone in that time, then that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Your phones should be off. It's got to be sincere and real, not just an excuse, or that's that perfection thing.
Yeah.
How do I appear to other people?
Yeah.
In real excellence. You know what you really need. I couldn't do what I can do now. I had these 6 people counting on me, 7 and more.
Wow.
So now I have more time to work on me. But in those days, I had to keep it minimum. But a workout's still got to be 45 minutes, so that's going to take up so much of your time. You get up earlier if that's what you do. If somebody's taking until 3 o'clock, it's because they're sleeping until noon.
Yeah. You can't squeeze more time out of what you're already doing if it's not there. You gotta find more of it, and that just means getting up earlier.
Yeah.
Or
You get
either
up
at the
earlier.
beginning or the end of the day. That's the only
Some
way.
people ask me, this happens quite frequently. I want to maybe do coaching with you. Well, what do you need? I need better, I need to manage my time better. I said, we don't manage time. Time just is, or it's not. We manage ourselves. And then the time takes care of itself.
Love that. That's so true, because then what are we always trying to do? Most likely, we're still always trying to fit ourselves and fit what we want into time. And if we ever are up against a schedule, there's not enough time to do the thing that we want, we probably fall apart. But if we can get better at managing ourselves, and then we are the best and optimized self to go into any time constraint, then we're fine. We're fine.
Then we're gonna be fine. Here's a tip for everybody. You can never get it all done in a day. Absolutely never, ever get it all done in a day. So part of the trick there, too, is the prioritizing. You put you first, then you prioritize your other things. Because you get all your A things done, you might have time for B thing. If you got C things, which you should have, they'll probably go away. Or they'll rise to A or B. But if you work in order of what's important, because you can't get everything done. So there's no point in doing C items when you got A items on your list. So
that reminds me of The One Thing. Are you familiar with that book and their work?
Yep.
That book, I reread that book now, or listen to Audible every January of every New Year now for, I think, like 5 years at least, probably 7. And it's the whole concept, the whole driving force is, what is the one thing so that by doing it makes everything else either easier or unnecessary? And that's the A item, the B item, the C item. That, I think, is the clarity we're after. And I would make the argument, I'm kind of hearing what you're saying, we should always be that A item.
Yeah, we should be that A item, because then we're going to be a much more effective tool for the rest of the items on our list. And at the end of the day, I also learned this. If I didn't get anything else done besides me and then put out fires all day, which you can have, everybody can have days like that, I still feel okay about my day.
Good.
If I put out fires all day and I didn't do me, I did not feel good about the day.
Ain't that the truth?
The other thing is getting up those fires, though. Those emails that I have, maybe other people's lives are more urgent than mine, but I have found that there's nothing urgent, really. They sound urgent in an email, so don't look at them until, if you can get by afternoon, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then look at your emails.
It's still going to be there.
It'll still be there. If it's important, a lot of them won't be there anymore. They'll be already taken care of. Nothing is urgent in the email, in my experience. You might have an urgent text, but you're not going to have an urgent email.
I think that reminds me, it might have been One Thing or some of Tim Ferriss's work around when he was building the 5-hour workday. That was like one of his biggest realizations was, if I just waited, and instead of thinking I always needed to put out this fire, especially when it comes to email or whatever the notification thing is, if I waited, not in like an avoiding aspect, but give it an hour or give it from morning to after lunch, I would come back, I would probably see the follow-up email. Oh, hey, never mind, I got it. Or, hey, I figured it out. Which shouldn't we all be trying to do anyway, trying to figure out our own problems? Of course, we're going to need help. But that alone, he's like, if I just inserted time with them and gave myself time to work on me and these other more high priority items, then I would come back and there were either way fewer fires to put out or none at all.
Right. So it is so absolutely true. Then we can just give ourselves away. And the one reason that people do that is it makes you feel important.
Oh, yeah.
You know, look how important
I helped.
I don't have time to do my stuff. I've got all these things because I'm really, I'm under high demand because I'm so important. So you get your ego out of the way and let those emails percolate. Sometimes we want to get back to them before somebody else gets back to them, you know? So we get the credit. Or just because it's a distraction. I'd have moms come into the gym. They're like, I've got these kids. See, they get no sympathy from me because none of them has as many kids as me. And I always worked out. But they say, I can't work out. I've got these kids and these stuff. You know what? Two things. First of all, you train your kids to leave you alone. If you just don't, you know, they'll get by. It's amazing.
If mommy's working out, you're working out too. Okay.
Yeah. She's not available. But those women are enjoying being important, and it feels good to be important. It does, and any of us would like that feeling.
I'm sure as a mom, like you want to feel like a mom, feel needed, wanted, loved.
But if Johnny's socks don't match, you know, or he can't find his shoes, he can, you know, you'll get to it. Because I committed to teach a volunteer class in early mornings at one point for like 9 years. I did that. So now I couldn't work out in the morning. But my kids are just getting where they were all in school. So I would work out at 9 o'clock. So if my kids needed lunch money or a paper or their gym shorts or whatever they needed, I can't do that until after 10 o'clock, you know. You train people. You can do the same with your employees. You train people to leave you alone. She don't bother texting her. She's not going to answer anyway till after 9 o'clock, whatever.
I mean, that's to bring back to a lot of Jocko concepts too. I mean, that's true delegation. That's extreme ownership, you know, and getting away from, you know, staying in the shit to like try to problem solve while you're in it, but also like detaching, observing, and taking inventory of am I a real leader? Is how I've delegated this team and this work, is it actually playing out, or am I just staying in it because I feel like I need to stay in it? And that's, you know, a form of micromanagement in and of itself. Yeah,
and that makes me think of something you said about the leadership thing is if it's a parent or you're a boss or you're a military, you've got people under you, you're going to teach them way more by letting them watch you put you first than you're going to ever say to them or do for them. And especially children, they're going to watch what you do. And that's what they're going to do, probably, maybe, hopefully.
Funny. I want to make a mental note right now. Future Chase, remember this. I want my kid to observe me in my morning routine, taking care of myself, so that maybe I'm just imagining my little kid, like, what are you doing? My morning routine. They're probably they don't know what they're doing, but just like embedding that. I mean, that is an incredible example of the type of dad and parent I would love to set. Because we pay attention to our parents when we grow up. You know, we mirror, we model, we consciously, subconsciously are embedding and being imprinted on so many things. How powerful of the next generation would that be if they grow up just being subconsciously imprinted with morning routine?
Right? Yeah. So, you know, if the best parent is the one that lives well and lets their kids watch them do it. Now, if your kids aren't around, you need to be with your children for them to see that. But I worked out all those years with all those little kids. I started. Well, at one point I realized that I was going to grow up and look like Barbie. I was getting a late start because I was already like in my late 20s and had 4 kids. But I thought, okay, I'm really going to go after this fitness thing. And I did. I just worked out faithfully all the time. I raised my kids. And guess what? I have 6 kids, and guess how many of them work out every day or regularly? I don't know if they do every day, but
6?
All 6.
All right.
And my husband.
Love to hear it.
Which he was not doing it this week. So there's other things that I do that they don't. They haven't all picked up. But most of those I started doing as they started leaving home. So, yeah, they all work out. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. That's amazing. That does kind of spill over into another area I want to talk about for sure, and that's when it comes to self-mastery, how we can carry this over into our relationships. I've talked a lot on the show about the quality of our relationships. I mean, hell, for years, actually, my wife and I would come on once a month, and we would just do a relationship health episode. If I had to nail down one thing, the secret sauce for anything I'm doing in life, work, business, my self-mastery, it's developing and nurturing quality and meaningful relationships. And that first and foremost has to come with a relationship with ourselves, which go back, listen to all the things we've been talking about. Boom, there you go. But this section in your book really stood out the most to me, and that was life mastery in relationships. So I'm curious, what role do relationships play in self-mastery? Because when we're talking about relationships with other people, how do other people help us in self-mastery? And like, really, why did this kind of make the cut? What is so powerful and meaningful about relationships?
Oh, that's a deep and complicated question. It's so intertwined in everything, isn't it? One of the things I learned, and I tell this story in a story about this in the book, but that a lot of the things I want to develop, like I want to be a good listener. Well, I'm going to have to be around people to do that. One of the story I tell in there is that I wanted to laugh more because I somehow got real serious. I was a pretty laughy, happy child, and then I got real serious about life. I wanted to laugh
Which
more.
is an amazing realization, by the way. I hope someone listening right now is asking that question, am I laughing enough?
Am I laughing enough?
Yeah.
But I'm also a loner, and I like to spend a lot of time alone. So now all my kids are in school or gone, and so I'm spending my days alone. And I was like, I heard somebody say, I tell the story in the book, but she said about people that are crazy. If you laugh when you're around people, it's the same, but if you laugh when you're using this as an example. She had no idea I was working on this. And I was like, oh, good point. I don't think
If I laugh around other people, I'm happy. If I laugh with myself, I'm crazy.
By myself,
Well, that must be the craziest person I know because I crack myself up all the time.
Oh, I do amuse myself once in a while. But
my wife would just say I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
But,
but day in and day out, you're not going to laugh by yourself, right? You're going to laugh with other people. I want to smile, be friendly, love people. Laugh with people. You're going to have other people. So that's one thing. But there's so much about the relationships. Relationships are such an important part of life. The other thing, one thing that comes to mind is my husband used to say this. He said the reason we were just dirt poor, like nobody's business. Like we had to have. My dad brought us this truckload of food once, and we lived on it for he salvaged it somewhere, like for 2 years.
Shout out, Dad.
We just were so broke. So we built this company, and one of our goals was to be worth $1 million when we were 40, which my husband, give him all credit for this, but we did do that. So we went from we can't pay the bills and we lived in a hovel to really, not like the usual young married poor people, but really below that. But he has often said that one of the reasons he could build that business and he was so successful is he knew that his kids were being well cared for and that things were right between him and me. He said when things are not right at home, it's hard to be effective. He'd always teach this. So that's an important part about relationships. The one thing that I think overall that I would really like to share about it, though, is, and you said this, we very first started talking, it made me think of this, and a few times you've said things that made me think of it again. But if you want to change your relationship, if you want to change the world, if you want to change your company, you want to change your employees, what do? You change you. And that's the key to having good relationships. You change you. If people are not, I'm going to share that story, but people are not, you don't feel like people are nice to you, well, then you have some work to do. If you're not being treated well at work, you have some work to do. If your relationship isn't what you want, you change. You change you. Only thing you have power over is yourself. And when you change you, everything else changes. And it's really the only power you have. We had this little period of time in 2020 where people were stomping their feet, demanding change, and they were rioting, and they were marching, and all that kind of stuff. Totally worthless. All it does is create more frenzy and anger. You want to make the world a better place, change you. Part of changing you might be go to work for some organization that changes the world. But stomping your foot and demanding that your partner change or that the government change or that society change is just futile and just causing more anger, creating more anger and resentment in the world.
You don't think, maybe just specifically in terms of self-mastery, there's ever a time or a place for voicing on such a high level, grand scale like that, and such as like protests, peaceful, I would say peaceful protest rallies. I certainly agree with we don't need to be banding together and bashing in windows and setting things on fire, unless maybe our country's being taken over by a dictator or something like that. But do you ever feel like there's ever a time and a place for raising your voice at such a high level?
I like the Gandhi approach. He was what he was, and he was able to make a difference because of who he was. I don't think everybody's got an opinion. Who's going to go? Your group goes over and they stand and they make their stand for whatever it is, and then this group makes. It doesn't change anybody. It doesn't change anything. There may be some exceptions done in conjunction with other things, and maybe in the '60s it might have made a bit of a difference, perhaps. But I had this experience. I lived downtown Boise in a condo. So we're up on the 6th floor, and they had a march. And it was friendly, happy, chanting. It permeated the wall. We could hear it through because usually our condo was pretty big. It was very loud. And it brought in a unhappy feeling. It brought
Really?
the outside into my house. I mean, it wasn't happy. There was, there's two sides. There was some shouting, but they weren't breaking windows or that kind of thing.
Okay, right.
But still, that came into my house, and I was kind of jarred by it. I was like, it doesn't feel good in my house. And it just was another testament to me that there's not very much accomplished that way. Go work for an organization. Get a spokesman that's official spokesman who knows well-spoken and people will listen to. But, yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
Well,
I don't see Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus hanging out at their alley. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, to my recollection of the Bible, Jesus wasn't leading any protests or rallies. He was always just, himself in every scenario, whether that's alone on a mountaintop or, walking through town in any form.
He spoke softly, he taught in kindness, and he healed people.
That's very true, yeah.
And Buddha was the same, and any of the great spiritual leaders, they were the same. I don't know about Muhammad. I think he had some warring stuff going on. But
what about when it comes to the maybe experiences or like maybe you weren't meant to be the one who needed to hear that, but like that level of banding together or just speaking very loudly, whether it's one person in a forum or one person in a megaphone or 100 people, maybe you're not the one meant to hear that. Could you say that someone does need to hear something like that at that level to be woken up, to go, okay, everything's not okay. Like there's some form of self-mastery I need to work on here. I think what you're talking about is probably like the people after trying to like change government and change policy and change organization.
Or anything, doesn't matter, anything. But here's the thing. If somebody doesn't, they're not going to be there,
Yeah,
they're not going to be there. The people that go are all the people that think like you do.
They might catch a replay on Twitter or something.
It makes people more narrow-minded because we're like, oh, we're all this and we're banding together. It feels good. You like to be a part of something. We're part of this movement. Look at us. We pat ourselves on the back like, look what we're doing. But it's not doing any good. You're kidding yourself. It's not doing any good. Go do something. Go serve at the soup kitchen or give some money to some organization or go do something that's real. It's not real. And maybe somebody somewhere might hear something. I doubt it because they're not going to be there. If they haven't heard it by now, and you're certainly not changing anybody's mind. Nobody's like, oh, I never thought of that, maybe that or that. They've all heard it. And if you've got a TV in your life,
most likely, yeah.
You've already heard it. So it masks real making a difference. There's so many other things you could do to make a difference, and it just hides. It just makes you feel like you're doing. It's like giving money to the beggar. I'm real proud of myself, but it doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is I give money to the soup kitchen. That makes a difference.
Volunteer my time in the soup kitchen.
Volunteer myself makes a real difference.
Get involved in the process and not
get
try to jump to
involved in
the
it.
outcome.
That makes a difference. This other stuff is just makes you feel good. It's just it's really ego satisfying. And I'm probably going to you'll probably get some flack on that.
Maybe. I mean, and that's kind of why I was kind of bringing up a couple different angles, and it made me, think a couple different ways. And I agree with some things, and I maybe I wouldn't say disagree, but I maybe just like think differently in some occasions. Or I definitely don't have an ultimatum in like how I think in that situation. I definitely don't think absolutely yes or absolutely no. But it's just I've just seen so much of the last couple of years. I agree. I've seen so much of the last couple of years of doing that, not really yielding much of anything. If anything, causing other problems. But also, one example comes to light. I was sharing with my wife, Iranian American. Me and her family on several occasions this year, we have done some peaceful protests for the Women Life Freedom movement, the whole Iranian revolution going on right now. And I guess my only kind of like comeback to that would be that one actually did cause some change in terms of like there were weeks of nothing being covered of this horrible massacre going on in Iran. And finally, like the news channel started picking it up and things like that. And so, again, to your point, like the people that need to be causing a stir and making noise, I think finally started doing that because of some of the smaller voices kind of rising up. But a lot of times I think it is like, especially this day and age, hey, here's my selfie. I'm at this protest, this rally, doing this thing. When really the mission should be, I'm here, I'm in the thick of it. And in some of these peaceful protests, I mean, I saw like literally shoulder to shoulder with prominent actors, celebrities, a lot of Iranian Americans, Middle Easterns, and not a single one of them really had their phone out, or at least, was until the end. I think that was a great reminder for me of like, they're in it for here and the now and for the reason. It's not something else to just show, hey, what I did.
That is definitely a cause there, and that's something that needs to have attention drawn to it. Absolutely, and there are some things in that realm, for sure. And maybe you can examine yourself on why you're there. But wouldn't it be better if somehow we could raise awareness and try to get people to educate themselves, rather than say, "Here, believe me. Here, believe me. Here, believe." Everybody's like, "Believe me, I've got the truth." I've got. It doesn't matter whether it's health or politics or. Everybody's like, listen to me, I've got the truth.
That's the golden gold, right? I guess, yeah.
But what we'd really like to see is go home and find out for yourself. That's the way that Jesus did it. That's the way Buddha did it. Here's some thoughts. You go home and work on that for yourself.
Yeah.
We can get people to go educate themselves. If you could have found a way in those, I don't know if there's a way, but there was a way, get people to educate themselves, just think what difference that would make. Like if I could see you doing your protest and be like, oh, yeah. And it would raise some emotion in me. But if you could get me to go home and do the research on it, then I would own it, which I knew a little bit. My daughter teaches English to refugees. So I got a little bit of exposure to some of the things going on. But
great point.
That would make a difference if we could go home and just educate ourselves. And it goes back to changing us.
Which kind of brings me to a section I had marked in the book about relationships. See your relationships as they are, not how you wish they would be. Whether, we're in the streets, peaceful protesting or whatever, or just in the workspace or in our own house, I think a lot of that, we kind of already touched on, a lot of that is ego driven, is like, I want them to change. I want them to see things this way. I wish they were like,
my needs.
Exactly. Yeah. She doesn't make me happy, or like he's not listening, whatever. And I wholeheartedly agree how every relationship has improved for me, especially the one with my wife. And we've been together about 10 years now, is the more we got better at seeing the other person as who they are, and then us individually growing, and then we would just kind of become and meet parallel. It made the mutual component that much better when we stop trying to change the other person. Probably me to her more so than her to me, to be honest. What do you mean by that? And how can we actually go about this? Seeing our relationships as they are, not how we wish they would be.
What you just said is super good about, don't try and change the other person. And ironically, when we change ourselves, that does change the other person.
It does.
They have to respond in a different way.
Yeah. It's a sneaky attack.
We wish that we had, it's a perfect example is people trying to change a probably not very good parent, and they keep still trying to get the love that they want. They think, oh, maybe this time they'll be different. They stay in. I used to actually use as a model for that. Writing that part was a relationship with my mother. She's got dementia now, so she'll never hear this. But she could be really highly toxic. She's never going to be, and she was never going to be the invested mother that I wanted, or my father. Neither one of them were ever going to be invested in me. They loved me, but they were never going to be there for me. So I just stopped thinking, wait, maybe one day, I figured this out. I was really young. I was very young when I figured it out, but they're never going to be that parent that I want, the warm, cozy parent. They're just never going to be that. They're just never going to be that. Your spouse, there's certain things that you learn to live without. And that doesn't sound, it's not a negative thing. That's just life. That they're never going to want to do this thing that I like to do. Or
how selfish and unrealistic is it of us to have 100% expectations of other people all the time?
Right. Or to want them to be different until you're perfect, which you're never going to be. We don't wait to ask the other person to change. I mean, you can ask for what you want, and maybe they'll change, but it's not going to be
Which we should.
Satisfying.
I think it's a great point.
Yeah, if
get better and get in the practice of asking for what you want,
but not all the time. Occasionally,
right.
There might be a thing big enough. But maybe what we should say first is, maybe I should get over it. Grow up and not expect that somebody else will be my needs. And that there's something like something, a habit or a thing that you really want the other person to really would. You can always ask, but it's still up to them. I think the key is to be married to somebody who you know is always improving, and then you just trust them to get to where they need to go. How arrogant is it for me to decide what my husband needs to do to fix himself? I know he's always working on it. All the things I teach, he could teach you too. We've done this together. How arrogant for me to think he should do this thing. He's busy working on himself. And why should he do the thing that I want? I mean, I can mention it to him.
Right.
But why should he do that thing? It's just selfish and arrogant. I'm so sick and tired of young women posting on social media about how men should meet all their needs and they should be their princess and I don't know what.
I got news for you. We can't.
You can't. They cannot. No, and nobody can meet somebody else's needs,
Yeah.
The idea is you have a companion you walk through this life with, not somebody who meets your needs. That was never the program. The program is to give you a companion, and then you walk through life together.
Yes, and it kind of, I think it's like same but different here. It kind of reminds me of this kind of hard truth my wife shared with me years ago, and through kind of a learning patch, a rough patch, if you will, years ago before we even got married. That was very hard for me to hear, but ultimately I think was the most important thing that she's ever said to me, and I would still argue is one of the most important things when I define how do you have a healthy relationship, especially in like a partnership marriage. And that's sometimes love is not enough. You need to have love and unconditional love for yourself and for this other person. But I think it's this old school mentality of I'm marrying this person, we love each other till death do us part, all this stuff. And that is enough. That's going to solve all these problems. That's going to fill these holes. That's not what marriage is. That's not what partnership is.
That's a fairy tale.
Yeah, exactly. We have to have love to work through those gaps in those relationships. But it's like, and I think back into past relationships of my own, the expectation of, I've been with this person for X amount of time. We've done X amount of things. So therefore, like, we should be past any and all these problems. We love each other, right? So why are we still having these? Love should conquer all. Exactly, no. And that's a very hard, bitter pill to swallow, but it was the most liberating for me, at least eventually, because again, it took all this kind of ownership back onto myself and took away so many of the expectations I was putting on her, which was then causing problems.
Yeah. Yeah, we could love a lot of people, but we couldn't be married to them, right, for example. I had another thought about that, too. I don't know. I lost that thought, but
okay.
Anyway.
It might come back.
It might come back.
Well...
But...
Is it back?
No, it was this one. It was important. It was important. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, only a true friend will tell you when there's food on your face. So there is that aspect when we do owe it to our partner to say, here's a glaring thing that might be getting in your way. Not because I need you to change,
right?
But here's a thing that might be useful for you to know. And not in a nitpicky way, and we certainly don't do that but there's most things we should be overlooking, but there's some things like when we can be off base,
That's such a crucial, important piece of feedback, I think, whether in a marriage or a partnership. It's just when we're talking about on the path of self-mastery, life mastery, and in our relationships, if we can remember that a meaningful relationship is someone telling us we've got crap on our face or giving us uncomfortable, unwanted feedback. Even in the beginning, we might think it as mean, rude. If we can detach the self from that a little bit, my Jockoism again, like if we can detach and observe, if we have love for this person, if there's love there, do we honestly really think they would be saying these hurtful things?
Yeah. You have to have a good feeling, a good relationship of trust for that, and make sure but we know if it's not about, if that person's trying to be mean to us or that they really have our best interests at heart, right? It still might be a tough pill to swallow, but we'd rather have the person that loves us and will love us afterwards.
Exactly.
Than know somebody, somebody
so
who's going to post a picture of you with fake food on your face on Instagram.
That's kind of my move. I love my wife so much. That's why I post these. She hates me for it, but every time she passes out, like in just like an awkward face, like we're traveling or something, like I tell her that's love. She goes, no, that's total embarrassment. You take that down. It's just like, but she gets me back from time to time. Well, Shira, I want to, kind of getting to a close here. Just want to honor your work and everything you've done for yourself, with yourself, and Life Mastery. You guys definitely want to check out the book. We'll have it linked down in the show notes. So many great takeaways in here, but what I love most about it really just comes down to the fundamentals and things that if we all did a gut check, like we know we need to do or need to do more of and need to do more consistently. This isn't like rewriting, history. This isn't rocket science. It's just the reminder that for a quality, meaningful life, we need to first take control of it. And there are certain things we can do to put in place to master it, not as a whole, because life is always going to be changing, but today, the here, the now, the present component.
and master ourselves.
And with that, I want to ask you my final question. You know, I think in the pursuit of life mastery, we're moving forward. I'm curious, ever forward, how would you kind of wrap that up into your work? When you hear those two words, what does that mean to you? How do you live a life ever forward?
It's progression, I think. We all know that being stuck is anxiety and depression. Or if you're stuck, we don't talk enough about but moving forward is happiness. That's the opposite, right, of being unhappy or unhappy when we're stuck. So, yeah, moving forward, and it's just little steps. There are no big steps. So moving forward is just simply little steps moving forward. But they compound and they build a beautiful life.
They damn sure do. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'll have everything linked for everybody, but where can they go right now to connect with you, learn about what you got going on more? LifeMasteryInfo.com. That's LifeMasteryInfo.com as the website. And there's free downloads there, tracking sheets and some things, reading list, updated reading list, a few things there that are free. And we're on Instagram. Great. Someone does that for me, so I always hesitate. And then I do the Facebook, so we're on Facebook. And great. I'm very accessible too. People email me, I always answer personally. Amazing. Okay, great. So. And we actually have an extra copy of the book here, so if you guys made it this far in the show, check the show notes. I'm going to have everything linked down there for you to get a copy of the book yourself and begin or just pick back up on some life mastery skills.